in the fight with my hands, I'm a bad man. Living in the streets all my life, I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man, I'm a bad man. With the mic in my hands, I'm a bad man. Even in the fight with the hands, I'm a bad man. Living in the streets all my life, I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man, I'm a bad man.
Welcome back, everyone, to either you're good, you're great, or you're just plain awful. To all you Twitter haters out there discussing whether or not I should have named my show something different, I personally don't care what you think. As you heard with the new intro song, I am indeed a very bad man. After the first show, we had a lot of feedback. A lot of people that were upset about us discussing kneeling, with such a hot topic right now. We knew that would happen. We had a lot of people take personal offense because their team got talked down to. Say the Green Bay Packers. We all know how hardcore that fan base is. And we had people that felt good because their team was mentioned in a positive light. And that's going to be something that happens every show. No show will be the same. No show will get the same reactions. So this week we're deciding not to really discuss kneeling. I feel like we touched that enough, and I feel like we went over that enough. And I know there's some crybabies out there that aren't fans of that kind of talking. So we're gonna discuss something else that has been brought to light in recent weeks. Another high controversy topic that has kind of caught the league by fire due to some circumstances we're going to touch on in a minute. But this topic is tanking. Tanking has been something that goes on in every sport, regardless of if people ever admit to it or not. And you can make the argument if it's a viable strategy or not. In my opinion, if you're 2-5, and you know you need a franchise quarterback, and you know you're not going to compete this season, then maybe you should consider it at least. If you end up with pick 12, you're more than likely not going to get one of the top quarterbacks. And if you do get a quarterback, you have to be extremely lucky and get someone the talent level of, say, a Deshaun Watson, who the Texans got in a similar spot last year. Or you end up in that middle of the pack in the first round. You end up getting somebody like a Johnny Manziel. He was picked a little later than 12, but we all saw how that panned out. So in my personal opinion, I do believe tanking is a legitimate strategy. You see it happen all the time. The 76ers in the NBA have been called out for it on multiple occasions. But look at what they're building over there. They've gotten so much talent due to their strategy that they're going to become a powerhouse at some point. Now, the reason this has come up as a topic is because the Buffalo Bills head coach recently went to the media and said the teams he was playing were tanking. He said that he looked around the league and he could see that multiple people were tanking. Now, just looking around the league, the teams at the bottom, the four teams that stand out with the records at the bottom of potentially tanking are the New York Jets, the San Francisco 49ers, the New Orleans Saints, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, when you hear those four teams read out, you say, hey, three of these four have arguably the least talented teams potentially in the league. That fourth team that I personally believe has a lot of talent is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now you'll say, hey, what about the New Orleans Saints? They've got Drew Brees. That's true. They got Drew Brees. Hella talented quarterback, 40-something years old. He's really good. He normally carries that team to around 8-8 every year. But if you look everywhere else, that team is kind of thin on young, talented players. Obviously, the rookie cornerback they just got, Marshawn Lattimore, is a fantastic player, but there's just nothing else really there. Trading away Brandon Cooks to the Patriots gave away a very, very top-end speed threat wide receiver And I think that's hurting him. Michael Thomas obviously is still a top threat, but he's not performing up to the standards. But when you look at the Jets and the 49ers, let's take those two for example. Those are two of the least talented teams in the league. These are teams you expected to be bottom of the league. The Jets traded away their best player to right before the season started, actually, to the Seahawks. They traded him away. And got Jermaine Curse and a pick out of it, I believe. But that Jets roster needs a lot of work. So it's not a big surprise they're sitting at 2-8, and they actually just came out of a blowout win this week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The one team that does surprise me there is Tampa Bay because of the talent they have. They have Mike Evans, Jameis Winston, Levante David, Gerald McCoy, Vernon Hargreaves, O.J. Howard, Deshaun Jackson's there now. You're talking like a very talented team with a lot of young players on it. Winston and Evans are going to be people that are going to be there for more than likely their career. I know they've had some head coach issues this year. So we're going to see maybe if at some point that roster can get turned around, if they can get things going. But I like I said before, I believe tanking is a viable strategy. Whether or not other teams agree with that doesn't matter. If I'm the New York Jets and the Buffalo Bills go crying about, oh, this team's tanking, well, maybe the Buffalo Bills shouldn't have let their head coach go on a 5-week vacation to start the season. How can you come back from a vacation where you missed a large chunk of the season and your team was losing and call out another team for tanking? A team where their head coach has been at almost every game, if not every game. If anything, you could make the argument the Buffalo Bills early on were trying to tank. They have a lot of draft capital from the Sammy Watkins trade, from the Ronald Darby trade. And they had a team that originally people weren't sure if they were going to be able to compete or not. But now, since the head coach came back, they've won a game or two. And they want to call out other teams for tanking. When you could have easily made the argument that they were the original tankers. Name one time in the history of the league where a head coach, to start a brand new season, they just said, hey guys, I'm not going to be here for the next 5 or 6 weeks, so good luck out there. And then went to Paris or Rome, where I don't know where the heck he went. And then comes back and wants to talk about other teams tanking. You know, the rumor mill going around for Buffalo is that people around the league aren't sure if this head coach is even going to be there long term. A lot of people to start the year said that this was going to be a one and done. They'd be surprised if he even made it through his first year. Part of that being because of his vacation. What head coach comes in, takes over a team and says, hey guys, I'm not going to be here the first 5 weeks. So, see you when I get back. Do good out there. Pat him on the back. Send him on the way. So the interesting thing is, if the Bills can keep winning, and if the coach can realize not to be hypocritical about the same things he did early on. Moving on from the tanking topic, we're going to discuss a topic I did talk about last show, and that's the offensive line around the league. Since that show, sack numbers have slowly been going down. The offensive line coaches have been doing a better job. The offensive lines are just performing better. And because of that, quarterbacks have slowly began to get more time in the pocket. And you're seeing passing get better and better. In line with that, since passing has improved, since quarterbacks are getting more time, Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers have done what we all thought they would. And I mean we all, even me, 100% going to backtrack on what I said previously, thought they would. And he's brought his team back from the depth and got him back in a playoff hunt. In the last 6 games, Aaron Rodgers has 11 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Green Bay is now 1 game back from Chicago and sitting at 5-4. Now, the one thing that people have to realize is anytime Aaron Rodgers is your quarterback, you have to relax. I mean, he told you that himself. Because he is the quarterback in the league. Now, the biggest win in that stretch for Green Bay came this week against the Chicago Bears, the division leaders. That win is propelling them into a position where maybe they can come back and get this division. This division is so close right now. I think by the end of the year, only one team will go to the playoffs from this division because they're beating each other up so bad. Chicago had an early Week 1 victory against the Atlanta Falcons, a perennial Super Bowl favorite. And they started flying high. They're 6-3. They're a good team. But I do feel like they were a little overrated after that win. They're slowly starting to come more down to earth. When you think about the Bears, you have to wonder, are they who they are, or are they slowly becoming who we thought they would be? To start the season with Mitchell Trubisky at quarterback, we thought it would take time for them to develop. We thought it would take time for them to become a good team before this head coach could compete with this roster. But they've shown that they're a good team, and they've shown that they can compete. But in arguably their biggest game of the year, a chance to 2-0 a division rival and get the tiebreaker in case they do end up in a tiebreaker scenario, they choked and let Aaron Rodgers come in and get the W. I've put a lot of focus on these two teams, but the Minnesota Vikings have been another quiet team who's still only 1 game back. This is a division that might not be decided to the end of the year, which is an NFC North special. That's pretty much an every year thing for them. Now I want to go from talking teams up, talking the Packers up, I want to transition to yet again doubling down, or I guess that's the incorrect phrase, to pulling back a comment I said about a previous team and changing direction. The Arizona Cardinals. You know, when I did the first show, I don't have a chance to watch all 16 games or how many ever games are going on every week. So I did a quick glance. I saw their record. I saw they were performing good statistically. And then I got tweeted after this past show, who have they played? And it made me look. The only loss they have of the year was to the best team they played, which is going to be a playoff opponent, more than likely, the Dallas Cowboys. But other than the Dallas Cowboys, they have played a majority of mediocre or underperforming teams. And with that, of his last 7 games, only 2 of his opponents have winning records. One of those opponents being the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are only 1 game over 500. So this could be one of the least challenged teams going into the playoffs. Now, do I think they have potential? Yeah, but looking at their games this year, they just the only true playoff 100% lock they've played beat them. And the top of the NFC is it's very top heavy. You got the Cardinals, you got the Falcons, you got the Cowboys. Out of those 3 teams, I want you to ask yourself right now, out of those 3 teams, in terms of talent, in terms of past production, in terms of consistency, which one of those 3 teams would be the most likely to lose? The Atlanta Falcons, historically, a regular stable in NFC Championship games in this league. Led by one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the league and the best rushing tandem in the league. The Dallas Cowboys. Again, another regular, consistent, top-tier NFC team. The best offensive line in the league. And in a time where offensive line is so vital, they have the best one. A top 5 halfback at a very young age. The only question you have about Dallas is their defense. Can they get stops when they need them? And then you have the Arizona Cardinals with an old quarterback. Their best wide receiver is like 50 million years old. And a defense that does have playmakers, but overall, I don't feel like is that very strong. So if you told me, hey, pick one of these 3, and who would you eliminate? Who are you going to pick out of these 2 to be in an NFC Championship game? I'm sticking with my preseason prediction, and I'm going the Atlanta Falcons versus the Dallas Cowboys. Now, be sure to give me some feedback on this. If you think I'm wrong, if you think there's another team out there that at the end of the year has a better shot than one of those 2 teams to be in the NFC Championship game, you let me know. But I'm just going off of everything we've seen so far in games and also past production. Now, I want to close the show here. Actually, we got 2 more topics, then we'll close the show. I want to talk about my AFC prediction for favorite to make the Super Bowl, the Houston Texans. I want to say the most underperforming team in the league. You have a team that is loaded with talent. The best defensive front 7 arguably in the league. J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, Whitney Mercilus. You're talking about top tier pass rushers. In a league where pass rushers are dominating. You're talking about offense with DeAndre Hopkins and Lamar Miller. But to be fair, Lamar Miller so far has been hurt all year. But a team that overall has been said, hey, we're one franchise quarterback away from being a regular contender in this league. And they go out and get Deshaun Watson. Arguably the most experienced and most proven rookie quarterback of the one selected in the first round. And Deshaun Watson has played very, very well. But yet this team sits at 3-6. Their head coach seems very out of it. He's been talked about not having enough time to game plan properly. And it's showing in the games because he's just getting outplayed, outcoached by everyone he's playing. The Texans played the Chiefs a while back. And I feel like that might have been a breaking point. The head coach for the Texans just flipped the script and pulled a Dennis Green and just absolutely went off. The Texans have arguably a top 7 roster in terms of talent. But they have to produce. When you want to talk about teams with talent finally producing, I feel like you have to look at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now you can say this team's only 5-4, but we're talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars. 5-4 for the Jacksonville Jaguars is basically making the Super Bowl already. This is a team that made a very controversial move when they moved Jalen Ramsey, who everyone thought would be a top-tier cornerback in this league for his career, to free safety, and brought over Jalen Collins in a trade. Everyone questioned whether or not that would be a good move, but Jalen Ramsey so far this year has balled out. He's got 5 picks on the year, And him and Miles Jack are leading a very, very strong Jacksonville Jaguars defense. Offensively, Leonard Fournette, an easy candidate for Rookie of the Year so far, averaging over 5 yards per carry, has helped them become one of the top 6 rushing teams in the league. And you got to remember, this is a league that has struggled to pass early on, so if you could run the ball, you could win games. And that's 100% what's happened so far for Jacksonville. So I want to ask you, are the Jags for real? And are the Texans done? These are two teams going the opposite direction of what people predicted to start the year. So which is a reality and which one is a pretender? Are the Texans the pretender? Are they incapable of winning games when they need them now? Or are the Jags just paper champions and will soon reduce back to being the Jags of old? And lastly here, I want to close the show out with the mid-season Most Valuable Player Award. I have one player that has single-handedly carried his team in pretty much every facet of the game. And that player is Melvin Gordon. Halfback for the San Diego Chargers. The Chargers are 6-3, playoff contenders, solely due to Melvin Gordon carrying the ball. He has 209 carries already on the year, which is second. Surprisingly, I thought that would actually be first, but it's actually second to Le'Veon Bell in Pittsburgh, who, if you remember correctly, was at one point on 2 feet out the door already. Melvin Gordon leads the league in yardage, rushing with 1,253. That puts him 149 yards ahead of the second place David Johnson. Now you're going to say, hey, how can Melvin Gordon help his team on the defensive side of the ball? Well, if you're asking me that question, you probably don't know that much about football to begin with, because it's called time of possession. When you run the ball efficiently, when you run the ball regularly, when you pick up first down after first down on the ground, you grind the clock. And since you clearly don't know anything about football, when your offense is on the field, your defense is off the field getting a break. So even if you don't have a good defense, if you keep them fresh, if you don't let them get worn out, then they're going to play better than a team that constantly has their defense out on the field because they have a lack of a rushing game. Melvin Gordon is single-handedly carrying this Chargers team. I would even argue he's dragging this Chargers team through the dirt. The Chargers have Cardell Jones starting at quarterback. That is beyond laughable. And Melvin Gordon is still leading them to wins. If that isn't the most valuable player in the league, then I don't know who is. So thank you for joining me once again. I'm sure there will be mistakes that I'll get called out for. Maybe. There were still some lapses in my talking. It's an improvement. I'm doing these shows on one take. I'm not going to go back and edit anything right now. I don't have that kind of time available. So forgive me. I am your host, Danny Herring. Yet again, letting you know that in life, you have 3 choices. You can either be good, you can be great, or you can be truly just plain awful.
Like in my hands, I'm a bad man. Even in a fight with my hands, I'm a bad man. Living in the streets all my life, I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man. With the mic in my hands, I'm a bad man. Even in the fight with the hands, I'm a bad man.